All right, welcome to the next video in our instructional series. This video is about creating the slides for Sunday service. This is by far one of the most complex parts of the streaming, presenting the stream, but it's also the kind of thing you can do offline. So you may take a half an hour or a couple of days during the week and get all the slides done, and it's fairly low pressure. And we're gonna walk you through some of the details of creating these slides today. So the first thing I want to do is, apparently do is close, there we go. Sorry about that. The first thing I want to do is bring up ProPresenter. And you can see here, this is the ProPresenter interface that we talked about a couple of videos ago. And this is the 2021 February 7th Sunday service. So this service is almost done. There's just a couple more things that need to happen. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this service, and we're going to let's rename this duplicated service. We're going to name it let's see, somewhere in here, rename. We're going to rename it Sunday Practice. This will help us. So if later when you want to see what we did or you want to look into some of the details, you can just open up the Sunday Practice playlist and you'll see all the things that we created during this tutorial video series. So the first thing we're going to do in this series is we're going to look at basically the instructions, which is sort of high-level reminders of how to create this, how to create these slides. And I created a Excel spreadsheet called ProPresenter Instructions. It's right here, ProPresenter Instructions, and I have a link to it on the desktop. It's actually stored in Google Drive in the tech team share. But for now, let's have a look at the instructions here. So each one of these lines represents a thing that you have to change every week. So the first thing we're going to add is in-service announcements. The author is the pastor. It's stored on Dropbox, and we'll go through where on Dropbox in a minute. The pastor will store this presentation in Dropbox, and then we will import it into ProPresenter. The image team imports it into ProPresenter. Typically, he does this the pastor stores this on Friday or Saturday. So that's an example of something the pastor authored. The opening hymn is an example of something that the image team creates. So the image team will import the opening hymn from the clipboard. They'll find the lyrics to the opening hymn, let's say, and they'll import it into the clipboard. And then they can do this anytime after the worship plan has been emailed by the pastor. He typically does that on Sunday afternoon, the week before. So this gives you a sense of what we have to change. Each one of these lines is sort of about 5 minutes work or so. And when we're done changing it, we usually turn this green so we know that it's done. And then on Saturday before the service, when we're pulling in the last of or we're finalizing it, we just go through and check to make sure it's all correct. All right, so without further ado, let's just dig into ProPresenter, and we just created this Sunday Practice. So if we want to look at the first thing on our list is creating the in-service announcements. So it happens to be Saturday today, the day before the service, so it's going to be pretty easy. The in-service announcements have already been created. So let's go ahead and making sure that we're working in the practice service that we're creating here. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Import. We're going to go to PowerPoint, and this brings up a file dialog, and we know that it's in the JUMC Image Team 2021, but I'm going to show you where that is anyways, just so you know. It's in Dropbox, JUMC Image Team 2021 images, and the pastor stores everything by date. So this is the 2021 February 7th pre-service announcements. So we're going to go ahead and open that, and we're going to import it. And I'm going to import all these things today actually I'm going to import them into the right directory. So this goes into weekly. I know it's spelled wrong. Sorry about that. I'm a terrible speller. I'm going to import that into weekly. And I'm going to go ahead and it's because we already did this. I'm going to go ahead and import it, and I'm going to overwrite the one that's in there right now. So now we have imported the pre-service announcements into the weekly library. So we look in here, and we'll see all of the announcement, all of the other things that have been imported into the weekly library. And you'll see here, this is the one we just imported, and you'll see the slides that the pastor created. And all we really want to do here is copy this presentation from the weekly library and paste it into the playlist that we're working on. So we go to the playlist here, and we find the place in the playlist that we want to paste it. In this case, we want to paste it, whatever you click on. If you right click and you say paste, it will paste whatever's on your clipboard underneath what you have clicked on. So you paste that in, and you delete the old one. I just hit the delete key. And now we have our pre-service announcements brought in. Now, one of the things that we have to do, we have to make sure that when we bring our pre-service announcements in, that we have to remember that this is a slideshow, and we have to remember to advance the slide every 10 seconds. So the way this works is, now we click on the formatting slide. After 5 seconds or so, the formatting slide will begin the pre-service announcements, and every 10 seconds we'll go to a new slide. And you can see that happening down here in the advanced section. So after 10 seconds, it will go to the next slide. And that will continue to happen until it gets to the end, in this case, slide 9, and then it will loop back to the beginning, to this first slide in the presentation. What's going in the house is almost the same as what's going on the stream. The only difference is, on the stream, I have this little timer here that says how long until the service begins. So just to give people a sense that we're here, and that the service will begin in, like, we begin this announcements at 9:15, so somewhere between 15 and a couple of minutes. That timer counts down. So we just pulled in the pre-service announcements, and in order to, we can now turn this pre-service announcements green. So to do that, you just can do anything you want, but to do that, I just make that green. And the next thing we have is the opening slide. So let's talk about the opening slide briefly. The opening slide is after the service begins, and the pastor procession happens, and during the procession we show the pastor's title slide, and then after the pastor's title slide, we immediately put up the picture for the in-service for the opening title. So this is the title for the service. This here, it's really difficult to see. Let me zoom in a little bit so maybe we can read it. Sorry about that. So this here, after the pastor's title, fifth Sunday after Epiphany. So that is tomorrow's service, but so it has a picture here that the pastor will select, and if the pastor chooses a new picture, he'll let us know, and we will find that picture in the media bin. So I'm going to go up here and click on the media bin, and usually in the bottom of the media bin, as long as you have images selected here, in the bottom of the media bin, you'll find the picture that the pastor wants us to use. It is unlikely to be Kermit the Frog. It's more likely to be something like one of these pictures here. And then when you find the one you like, you just click it and you drag it up into the presentation you like, and you can see it will either replace the slide I want, or it will put it between, depending on where you drag it. And I want to put it between for now, because I don't want to actually, because it's the same picture. I want to make sure that it doesn't change. But there's a couple of things you need to do to these pictures typically. So now that we've pulled that up, you'll notice if this were a different picture, it would have these borders on the side, and in this picture here doesn't have the borders. So when we bring in this background, any background we bring in, we want to be able to adjust those borders if the picture has a different aspect ratio than the display we're using. So to do that, you right-click on the picture you want to change, and you go to Inspector, and the Inspector has a Properties section. And in the Properties section, there are a few choices. You can scale to fit, and what that does is it scales to fit the whole picture on the screen, or scale to fill. And what that does is it scales the picture up until the whole screen is filled, and that will remove those black bars on either side. So when we say OK or X, you'll notice that it now has removed the black bars on the side. And the last thing you want to do when you're doing this is you want to change to go to next timer. So this says when you load the background, you make that 0, so it doesn't take any time at all, and then it loads the text as well. So we're gonna delete that slide because sorry about that, folks. We're gonna delete this slide because we already have the slide in from last week. So that's how you do the background in the opening slide. The next thing you want to be able to do is change the text on the opening slide. So we're going to go ahead and edit the slide here, and you can, in the slide editor, you'll notice that we went from show here to the slide editor. So if we're looking at the show, this is the show. By clicking on edit slide, we went to the slide editor, and you can change the text on the slide in here. And we're not going to change the text because it is the 5th Sunday after Epiphany tomorrow, but you can change this to whatever you want it to be. So now when you run this slideshow here, or when you run this presentation, you'll notice that it loads the background and it loads the text on the screen for the house presentation, and it loads that text in the lower third for the streaming presentation. And that's essentially what you want to have happen. So now that we've done the background slide, we can go to Excel, and we can, the opening slide rather, I'm sorry. We can go to Excel and we can click on the opening slide here, and we can turn that green. Great, we're 2 of the presentations in, and I think this is long enough for this video, so I'm going to stop this video here. And in the next video, we're going to talk about bringing in the in-service announcements and then adjusting the worship leader title slide so that we can update that slide every week for the worship leader.